what he goes for, because now he does have a ring, So, I've seen a lot of players get the ring and then go, all right, time to get the bag.
Yep.
So, that's true.
And I can't blame him. Can't blame him.
I don't think it's outrageous to say if Odell Beckham doesn't get hurt that the Rams win by at least 2 touchdowns in that Super Bowl. They were dominating when he was on the field.
Yeah, there's a chance he could have easily walked away with MVP of that game, the way that he was playing at that moment.
Yeah, he had tons of catches. He was constantly open.
Yeah, and they weren't going to figure out how to cover him. Eli Apple can't cover. He couldn't cover a bed with a blanket.
He's so bad. My God.
But yeah, so Rams, Allen Robinson's good. Not much else they can do with, extremely limited cap space. So, they're still going to be a very strong team next year.
Not with a ton of picks. I mean, they built their team to win that Super Bowl. They did, and they're going to have to suffer a couple of consequences, but they should be a quality competitor. Yeah, I mean, they should be a quality competitor for the next couple of years. It's just it might be painful at times because you're not going to see them do a lot because they can't do a lot in the offseason.
Yeah. I mean, they've made two Super Bowls in 4 years?
It's very much win now time, and the wheels might fall off at some point, but
but those trophies never leave the case.
They're not gonna this year,
right?
And those trophies will stay there forever
until they move to whatever other city because LA doesn't want football anymore.
Well.
But let's move on. Now we get to those Miami Dolphins. Man, 3 straight massive quarterback deals in a row. Former Broncos quarterback Teddy Bridgewater, 1 year, $6.5 million. As we've mentioned, the 2 running backs, Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert. They also added former Raiders fullback Alec Ingold. Wide receivers, Cedric Wilson, Tyreek Hill, and Preston Williams. Like we had said, they also brought in Trent Sheffield from the 49ers. They franchise tagged Mike Gesicki. They signed tight end Durham Smythe. Former Saints offensive tackle Teron Armstead, massive 5-year, $75 million contract. They wasted $14 million over 2 years on former Cowboys guard Connor Williams. He's so bad. He's so bad. Like, I see PFF and other people talking about how good he is, and I was like, are you fucking watching the same game I'm watching? Constantly pressure, and if he doesn't let someone through, it's because he's holding them. He's so bad. Let's see. Lost my place. Okay. Linebackers Sam Egavoan and Landon Roberts. They also signed linebackers Brendan Scarlett and Duke Riley. They brought in Giants corner Keon Crossan, and they also signed safety Sheldrick Redwine. Another very busy team. I like the addition. I forgot they got Preston Williams. He is a solid 3rd or 4th wide receiver. Someone to add depth, maybe play on special teams, whatever you need. The 2 running backs, I think they fixed their issues at running back. I think Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert really do fix the problems that they had at that position. Teddy Bridgewater is a solid backup. Obviously addressing the offensive line with Armstead and I don't think Williams could be much worse, so we'll see. But overall, solid free agency for them as well.
Yeah, I think they're reading the tides of the water just because of what's happening in the AFC West and what is currently going on with the AFC East. 2 young quarterbacks, both in New England and in
Buffalo
and in New York.
Oh.
But you also have the MVP potential candidate in Buffalo. Division's going to be hard to win, but if you look at the AFC West, you're going to need to really bulk up your team if you even want to compete for a wild card at this point, because
the AFC is so stacked. It's insane.
All right.
Yeah, and I feel like they read it that way.
I'm about to say something that's very blasphemous to a lot of people, and I'm sorry, Dan O'Shea, but I have a feeling that this year we're going to see that Josh Allen's the best quarterback in the NFL. I think he overtakes Pat Mahomes as the best quarterback in the NFL. I think that happens this year. He's been creeping up over the past few years. I think he will be the best quarterback in the NFL this season.
He's trending that way already, and he already proved he can go blow for blow with Pat Mahomes in a really intense scenario with a lot of pressure on him. I don't know that would necessarily surprise a lot of people. It might irritate a lot of people in New England and people like O'Shea.
Listen, you're bugging because it's obvious that Zach Wilson's going to be the best quarterback in the NFL.
He's not even the best quarterback on the team. Mike White for days.
Listen, don't make Mike White another Jeremy Lin. Just stop it. New York gets way too overexcited over people who come off the bench and do good.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure Mike White immediately kind of ended that when he,
the very next game.
Good after that.
Yeah, but 15 minutes in fame in New York is worth a hell of a lot more than 15 minutes of fame in Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Let's move on, though, to a team in the same division as Detroit, and that is the Minnesota Vikings. They were also pretty busy. Another just absolute home run of a quarterback signing. Vikings signed Sean Mannion to a 1-year contract.
That's the Mannion to you.
They also added former Rams tight end Johnny Munt, former Broncos guard/center Austin Schlottman, former Bills defensive tackle Harrison Phillips, former Packers linebacker, Zadarius Smith. Now, we reported that he had signed with the Baltimore Ravens, but not so fast, my friends, as old Lee Corso says. He switched it up, and he signed with the Minnesota Vikings. So now, hopefully, that Vikings defense doesn't blow the lead for Kirk Cousins, because this is a stat I've been saying for the past, month when people talk about how bad Kirk Cousins is. You think Kirk Cousins is bad, look at his stats this year, and he was the only quarterback in the NFL to have a lead in every game. That's a fact.
Yeah, you can look at any of Minnesota's games. It was not Matt Stafford's fault that they lost those games. He just couldn't win some of them, but that defense was so bad. Although a lot of their free agency moves were built on upgrading at every level. Given
Kirk Cousins 35 personally, but I guess I get it. I don't think he's anything to write home about. I don't think he's terrible. I think he's, basically slightly above Andy Dalton in his prime.
What? What?
I don't think Kirk Cousins is that good, man. There's a reason that people are saying enough excuses with him, because they've trotted out every excuse in the book, and he doesn't win.
So are wins now officially a quarterback stat? Because listen to these seasons. The last 2021, 4,221 yards, 33 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 4,265 yards, 35 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. 36-03, that was 2019 when he only played in 14 games. 26 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. 2018, 4,298 yards, 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. What about those losses is saying Kirk Cousins isn't doing the job?
Listen, you can trot out stats all day, but he just doesn't win games. He doesn't win games for his team. He's been on how many teams now?
2. He's been on 2 teams.
And for how long, and surrounded by how much talent, and yet he doesn't win games.
It's really going to come down to whether or not this defense has made the right upgrades, because if the defense even holds them to 1 less touchdown in most of their games, Kirk Cousins should have a fantastic season. If the defense does that and Kirk Cousins still doesn't win, yeah, then I can see your point 100%. But their defense was awful last year.
Over the last 3 years, the Vikings have had the worst 2-minute defense in the NFL. The worst.
That's coaching.
That is 100% on coaching. You're right.
I think Zimmer was very, very bad. And I'm sure he made Cousins worse. But I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. And watching him play, I'm just never like, oh wow, he's so good. You know, he usually has receivers that do a ton after the catch. So I don't know. I just don't really see much to write home about with Cousins. Congrats to him though on getting the bag.
Yeah.
Yet again.
Yep.
It's a Sam Bradford bag.
All right, let's continue on. After Zadarius Smith, they also brought in linebacker Jordan Hicks and punter Jordan Berry. They also, it was just announced, Pat Pete has decided to re-sign with the Vikings, and he says he wants to play for at least 3 more years. He should just retire. But I think the Vikings did a good job. Like I said, over the last few years, worst 2-minute defense in the NFL in 3 consecutive years. Bringing in Zadarius Smith is going to help. Bringing in Jordan Hicks helps. And bringing in Harrison Phillips is definitely going to help. So, you're right. I think it's time that defense gets back to what it was when they were in the NFC Championship game, but better than letting Nick Foles put up 38 points on them.
Right.
So let's move on.
Decent offseason.
Yep. Let's move on now to the New England Patriots. They also did a lot here. They signed quarterback Brian Hoyer. I guess technically re-signed. They brought in Saints wide receiver / running back Ty Montgomery. They also re-signed James White, Trent Brown, 2 years, $13 million. James Ferentz, former Browns linebacker Mack Wilson via trade. Linebacker Jawan Bentley, former Texans cornerback Terrence Mitchell, former Cardinals cornerback, and former Patriots Super Bowl hero Malcolm Butler. Re-signed Devin McCourty, re-signed Slater, and Nick Folk is back. Very busy team.
It's also looking like they have just signed Jabril Peppers to a 1-year deal.
Yes, they also signed Jabril Peppers. That is correct.
Yeah, I'm seeing that just recently happened.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it looks to me like this is still a net loss this season. I mean, I know they seem to make it work regardless, but you gave up 2 big holes in your offensive line, and I just don't think that's ever a good thing. And I don't think they did enough to replace that. So I don't think this was a good offseason for them. I think it was okay at best. And to me, it looks like they took a step back so far.
Listen.
But we'll see what happens.
I don't think Karras was all that good. So losing Karras, I don't think was that big of a deal. I know the Bengals fans are super excited about him. For me, how do you let J.C. Jackson walk?
Right.
Like, how? Like, literally, Jalen Ramsey, who is considered by many to be the best corner in the NFL, I disagree, has J.C. Jackson in his top 5. How do you just let him walk? I get you would have to do a lot of work to move money around to re-sign him, because he signed for, what was it, $82.5 million or something like that? So that's nuts. But how do you let a hot young corner go? And he was obviously showing this leadership that not a lot of people show at his age. So it just doesn't make any sense for them to have just let him go. But
I don't know. To me, it seems like it's a typical Bill Belichick offseason. He's going to make moves that don't make sense to a lot of people, yet he somehow just makes teams work, at least.
They're going to move up and draft Stingley, and Stingley's going to be the defensive rookie of the year. You watch. That's what's going to happen. Although I disagree. I think as good as Stingley is, I know this is for a later episode, I don't see how anybody except Kyle Hamilton wins Defensive Rookie